I don't like people calling themselves brand or building their brand. You want to be known for something, right? But we're not things, right? A thing is a brand, at least in my opinion, right? So what I like to tell people, instead of thinking of yourself like, well, I'm selling something, I need to convince them that they should buy this. Go with the mentality of, I'm here to help you. Instead of looking for a job, you're like, yeah, we need a job, obviously, but I'm not here to get a job. I'm actually here to offer you something, help. And I'm looking, as a candidate, I'm looking for the right people who need my help. Some people may not need my help, my specific help. Some people may. Some people I may not want to help, even though they need my help.
Welcome to the Who You Know Show, where what you know is important, but who you know can make all the difference in your wealth, health, business, career, your relationships, and definitely in your life. And we're here to help you to level up, get noticed, and connect to your next opportunity. Today's guest is Ramon Santillan. I think I'm saying that right. Probably not. But Ramon is the founder of PersuasiveInterview.com, a nationally recognized interview and salary negotiation coach. He's been quoted by the U.S. News, CBS, Yahoo, and the Chicago Tribune. And before coaching professionals on how to sell themselves and negotiate their worth, he was actually a tax consultant for some of the world's biggest brands and built a career on both numbers and nuance. So super excited to have you here on the show, Ramon. Did I say your last name right?
You did not. In Spanish, the double L sounds just like a Y, so it's Santillan.
Santillan.
Yeah, Santillan.
Santillan.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Well, thank you for having me here.
I appreciate you coming, man.
Welcome.
And we got you in person in the studio,
Yep.
so that's very cool. All right, so take us back a little bit. I want you to kind of paint a picture for us and give us a story, the backstory to where you got today, because I know a lot of people get in this space. There was something, a defining moment or something that shaped them into where you're at today. So take us back a little bit.
I come from Brownsville, Texas. Brownsville, Texas is in South Texas, on the tip of Texas, on the border by the sea. Our claim to fame right now is SpaceX. That's where they're launching the rockets.
Right, yeah.
First generation college students. Went to college, didn't know anyone there, didn't have any references of who I could aim to be towards. I wanted to be an accountant. So I went to UT, #1 accounting program in the country, but I'd never seen an accountant that looked like me. And I said, but I want to be an accountant. I went, worked 2 jobs to pay through college, and, was on my way to being an accountant. And at that time, I went to an organization, school organization, student organization, and we had one of a company come in, recruit students. And they saw me and said, well, we love you. You're the best ever. Those are little words the guy was telling me, like, oh, you're so good, and we want you to hire you for our firm. And at that time, there was a program called the PPA program. It's a 5-year program where you graduated, you had a master's degree. I didn't get into the program, so I just had I would have a regular accounting degree. And as soon as I told the guy that, I said, oh, well, I'm part of the 4-year program, not the 5-year program. The guy literally turns around and walks away.
Oh.
And just turns around, like, and there was the HR recruiting team was part of there. I turned to them and said, did I say something wrong? Because he just literally turned away and walked away. And he doesn't even turn around. He kind of looks over his shoulder and says, if you don't have the PPA program, no Big 4 accounting firm. Big 4 refers to the 4 biggest accounting firms in the country, in the world, actually. If you don't have your PPA, your master's degree, no company's ever going to hire you. And walked away. And then the HR lady said, well, just try applying and maybe something will come up. So, and I had to get an internship for that next semester in order to graduate. So I said, okay, well, obviously I can't compete against people who have better grades, have better connections, have this, or we're going to get this 5-year program. I'm just going to have to, I can't beat them. I can't beat them at their game. So I have to outsmart them. I can't compete. I'm going to lose. So I have to outsmart them. So what I did is just prepare myself really well. I did all kinds of research on the companies. And this is fall of 2001. So internet was kind of coming out. Some companies had websites. All the research we did, it was on a magazine, a book, that kind of stuff. But I got myself ready for the interview. And when they had the interviews, I went and I just blew them out of the water.
Nailed
I
it.
got an
Good.
offer, and so
So if you could tell that guy that passed you up, if you could tell him something now, what would you say to that guy?
see, I don't even think I don't think about the guy because whatever judgment call he made it for whatever reason. The reason I work so hard at these things is because the people that actually did trust me to do whatever they thought I could do. So to those people, I would say thank you. To that guy, I mean, he didn't ever believe in me. I don't think about him. Why would I?
Well, I look at it as, it probably fueled you, right? It made you think about, okay, how do I go about doing this, right? So he actually, in a way, roundabout way, helped you.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. But probably could have helped me in a different way.
Right, right.
But yeah, you're right. Like it kind of put him in me in this direction where it's like, okay, the mentality was I cannot compete.
Right.
I'm gonna lose because
You don't have the you didn't
Like on
have
paper.
the yeah.
Yeah.
right on paper.
Yeah.
In anything with my clients, that's what I tell them. Like, don't compete because people say, well, I have a 4.0 GPA. Great. What if the guy has your competition? They also have a 4.0 plus another major or another minor or more experience or better connections. You're gonna lose.
Well, so this reminds me of something that I always talk about. Best known beats best.
That's right. Yep.
Right? And so you could be the best HR whatever, candidate, but if nobody knows about you, right? You could have all the criteria, the best skills, but best known beats best. And to your point about going in prepared and crushing the interview, right? You might not be as good of a qualified candidate, but man, you're going to get them to know, like, and trust you. You better close that deal.
Yeah. And I would say to that, I would add, be known by the right people because a lot of people can know you,
Right.
but if they're not the right people, it's kind of pointless, at least for the job search. But we want to be known by the right person for being the best there is.
Yeah, I did an interview with Grant Cardone. Are you familiar with who?
That's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
I did an interview with him, and I asked him. I said, "What's more important, what you know or who you know?" Right? And he said, "It's who knows you."
Yeah.
He goes, "That's number one. Who knows you? Then it's who you know. Then it's what you know, in that order."
Yep.
So to your point, the right people knowing your name, that's super valuable. What's that worth? Right? Because you could know someone else. Like if I know Ramon, but Ramon doesn't know me. Actually, you know what's so interesting? In church this past Sunday, they were talking about this. They were saying, Jesus says, "Depart from me, I never knew you." Right? "Depart from me, you evildoer. I never knew you." Right? We all know Jesus, right? You could know, but in order to get access, he's got to know you.
Yep.
Right? I thought that when they told me that in church, I was like, dang.
Yep.
They framed it up with a story of like, imagine going to a concert. They said, imagine going to Michael Jackson concert, okay? And they said, everybody knows who Michael Jackson is, okay? And you're in the audience and you want to go backstage? Well, if you want to go backstage, he needs to know you. Right? He needs to know you and let you back, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, so that's so important that you said that. It's like the right people knowing your name gives you access.
Right. That's right.
So you talked about preparing yourself, right? And you obviously reinforced that because that is a huge step. We talk about this in the Career Transition Network a lot, which is selling, right? Your position as a job seeker is sales. So there's selling yourself in the search, right? And in an interview, but how do people get it wrong? Like, what do people do as far as like messing that up?
I think a lot of times some people are going to come at me because of this, because of the brand. I don't like people calling themselves brand or building their brand. You want to be known for something, right? But we're not things, right? A thing is a brand, at least in my opinion, right? So what I like to tell people, instead of thinking of yourself like, well, I'm selling something, I need to convince them that, they should buy this. Go with the mentality of, I'm here to help you. Like, instead of looking for a job, you're like, yeah, we need a job, obviously, but I'm not here to get a job. I'm actually here to offer you something, help. And I'm looking, as a candidate, I'm looking for the right people who need my help. Some people may not need my help, my specific help. Some people may. Some people I may not want to help, even though they need my help.
Right. It's
But
a
as
two-way
job
street.
candidate, yeah, it's a two-way street. Do you need my specific kind of help? And do I want to help you? And if you change that mentality, it's easier to present yourself instead of selling yourself. Present yourself how you want to be seen by these people.
I love that because that's the go-giver mentality. It's, we always talk about some people are givers and some people are takers, right? And so if you're going in there trying to get something, like you said, you're trying to get a job, you're taking, right? You're trying to, you're the way you're approaching it is as a taker instead of as a giver, right? And so you're going in figuring out, hey, how can I solve a problem for this company? How can I help this company? Maybe I'm not the right fit, but maybe I can connect them to the right fit. What can I do to solve a problem for this person in front of me? And it actually, what that does is if you go in with that mindset, that relieves a lot of pressure off of you, actually.
Exactly right.
Sure.
Exactly right.
Sure, it gives you a lot more confidence. Gives you the way you even carry yourself, right, in the interview.
It removes the
That
outcome.
attitude.
It removes the outcome. It's the same thing, like, Mark, for us in financial services. If we go in there and it's all about, we got to close this deal, got to get this deal, got to close this deal, we're so attached to the outcome that it's self-serving. We're not doing what's in the best interest of the client, right?
Right.
Go in with what is in the best interest for the company.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's you, maybe that's not you, right?
Well, and I think paired with that, and you can, I guess confirm this, in your preparation, right? Most people are preparing to present, right? And presenting is what? One-sided, right? And so they're not open. And to your point, when you're focused on the outcome, you're not listening, right? And you're not open and receptive to acknowledging and engaging and finding ways, even in the midst of the conversation, of how you can add value. What would you say as far as like how you prepared and then how that interview process went as you overcame that obstacle?
Yeah, when I work with my clients, and a lot of them get surprised because they think we're just going to do mock interviews. They're like, tell me about yourself, biggest strength, biggest weakness, the typical, what kind of dog would you be if you had to be a dog, right? And it's like,
I got asked that question in a date. I swear to God, not kidding you, man. I got asked that question in a date. Anyway, go ahead.
So I don't see a wedding band, so maybe the date didn't go that way.
No, it did not. No, it did not.
So I tell them, okay, yeah, we are going to practice some questions. We're going to do some mock interviews, but more importantly, we're going to learn your story, develop your story. And this isn't about memorizing a script or anything like that. It's about knowing how you want to present yourself. That's half of it. The other half is knowing what questions you want to ask. And I always tell people, don't ask those canned questions. Tell me about the typical day, because the answer is always going to be, no day's typical. Everything's so crazy here. Ha, 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 ha. Everywhere you ask that question, they're going to tell you the same thing. Or diversity. A lot of people, what's the diversity like here? And I tell them, you can go to the KKK, organization for a job there, and ask them, what's the diversity here? Like typical canned question, and they're going to say, we're very diverse. We got races from the north, races from the south, from the east and the west. Right? It's a canned answer.
We got white hoods. We got red hoods.
Exactly right. It's a canned answer to a canned question. So if you want to really get to know them and see if they're the right fit for you, ask the questions you want an answer to. And I'm not saying you shouldn't ask about diversity. Some people care about that, are very curious. It's like, that's fine. But make sure you ask it the right way to the right person so you can get the real answer. So that way, when you leave the interview room, you can decide, okay, is this a place where I want to be? Yes or no? Maybe it's yes, maybe it's a no. That's fine. You make the decision later. You don't have to make it on the spot.
And also to your point about going and helping instead of trying to get, you want to help. So the only way to know how to help is to ask good questions.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? And ask not self-serving questions, asking about what their needs are. I mean, that's one of the biggest things in sales is like, I got to get to know my client. I need to know what their needs are. What are their goals? What's their mission? What are they trying to accomplish? Right? I need to know those things. Otherwise, I don't know how I can serve their needs.
Right.
And a lot of times they're going to have stuff on the job description that it doesn't really align with the real role. Like what some of the questions, like what's not on the job description that you really need taken care of? What fires do we need to fight around here? What's really,
Here's the question I tell my clients to ask, and it's a wonderful question because, one, it's bold, so most people don't ask it, and also throws the interviewer off their script, because a lot of times interviewers are just reading off their little piece of paper with the questions they have to ask, and they're not analyzing the candidate. They're just like, I need an answer to this, right? So I tell them, this is the question. So I'm going to, for everyone out there, what about my resume attracted you the most?
Mm-hmm.
Because once you ask that, they're going to tell you what the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can go heavy on that.
I love that question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like what?
Great.
I mean, essentially, you're asking me why am I sitting here?
Yeah, where are we talking?
Yeah.
What's the problem here?
Right.
Yeah.
And it'll also tell you if they really looked at your resume, because sometimes,
Yep.
right?
Oh,
As
yeah.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
like
Yeah.
you got to that interview and you're sitting in front of somebody else might have looked at your resume, and they put you in front of the interviewer, and the interview's sitting there. They haven't even really looked at you yet,
Right.
or maybe they glanced, but they didn't really look at it. So you ask them that question, and it kind of,
Yeah.
and so like to your point, what do? Because you stumped them,
Yeah.
and they go, well, we really need someone to do bop bop bop, right? X Y Z.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if you could describe, like, you know, in preparing for the interview, and we were talking about persuasion, right? Like the persuasion framework. Do you find that most people are good at, and maybe to a degree, what degree they're good at actually developing that persuasive dialogue, right? How do you help people prepare for that?
Yes. So doing research is what really prepares you. Research on the job, on the company, and on the people you're meeting. Because once you know that, then you know what angles to go to attack it from. Also knowing your story. So a lot of time with my clients, what I spend my time is developing that story. What have they done? Why do they want to do this job? You know, where do they want to do it? What do they want to be called? Once we know that story, we know the different angles to it. And that's when that's why when you go to an interview and you ask them something like, what about my resume attracted you the most? And they stumble, that's a data point for you. Like, wait a minute, is this really important to them? Because if it was, they would have prepared themselves.
Yeah,
Right,
they'd
just
have the
like
answer
you're-
right at the tip
right,
of their
Just like
tongue.
you're preparing for
Right.
them, they
Yeah.
should be preparing for you.
Yeah.
That's a data point you take. And again, I always tell my clients, like, yes, I know we need a job. I know we want a job. But we want to make sure it's the job, not a job. Anyone can get a job eventually. In this country, we all eventually get a job. Is it the right one? Is it on timeline? Probably not. But we all get a job eventually. What I deal with my clients, my students, is the job. One where it pays you well, treats you well, trains you well, and it's a career path. Not just a job, a career path.
Who are your clients? Yeah, I'd like to maybe sidebar and say, yeah, who's your clientele, your base, who's your ideal?
What I used to do, so I've been doing this for about 15 years. When I first started, I was doing executives. So we know that for executives, obviously they want to get the job, but more important to an executive is making sure they make a good impression, because they live in a very small world and word gets around if they don't do well. in
They
an
also
interview.
got the money to hire you.
That's right, exactly right. So
Yeah.
that's part of it too. So I would work with executives, help them get ready, and get these big promotions and all that stuff. And again, making sure that their brand, again we'll call it brand, stays intact or actually even improved. At some point, I started getting calls from parents of college students who needed to prepare for interviews. So I started helping them out, and that was very rewarding because I was helping them kind of start their career. A couple of years after that, I started getting calls, same thing from moms, but these moms were moms of students who were on the autism spectrum, or what they call high functioning autism. So people who can go to college, take care of themselves, all kinds of stuff like that. But they have trouble with social skills and interviewing, that kind of stuff. So I started helping them out. Very big success there. And since then, I started focusing my practice on people who are neurodivergent. The reason is this. When I work with executives, I would help some, experienced executive make a ton of money, make even more money, get a bigger title, extra VP in the front of their name. And that was great. But when I work with college students, especially those who are neurodivergent, I've gotten calls from moms. I actually got one yesterday. After we're done with our work, of the moms crying, telling me, you gave me dreams I never allowed myself to have. Like, I don't have to worry what's going to happen to him when I'm gone, because now I was hoping he could get a job somewhere, but you got him a career that pays him benefits, that gives him a career path, retirement. Now I can dream of having grandkids, because now not only can he support himself, but in this career path that he has now, He can maybe even get married, support a family. I can have grandkids.
Can you tell me, that's one of them big words. Now,
Neurodivergent.
Neurodivergent.
now, not the, now, how you say it?
Neurodivergent.
Neurodivergent. What the heck is that?
So it's kind of like the term used now for people who are not neurotypical. Neurotypical are people who are typical, I guess neurally, like in our brain, the way we think. Neurodivergent covers a lot of different
Like ADD, ADHD, blah 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 blah.
autism. That kind
So
of stuff.
I'm a neurodivergent.
Maybe
I got
don't-
the ADDs and the
Okay.
and the H's and the D's and all of them. That's what they told me. They said you broken.
Yeah.
I said no.
No, exactly right. So a lot of my students are, they may have that stigma.
It's a
that someone told
superpower.
them that, you can't do this job because, again, kind of what we started with, like, there's no one like you doing this job.
Mm.
And you can't do it because you can't do it. My background as a accounting student, as a business student, I always thought this is a business case. Yes, we can kind of do hiring initiatives and that kind of stuff and maybe kind of force people to do that, some companies. There's people out there doing that, and that's great that they're doing the work, so that paves the way, make it easier. But from my perspective, my clients don't have time to wait for this to be normalized.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I do is I say, okay, let's make a business case. So you become the solution to their problem. Let's figure out what the problem is. Let's figure out what you're looking for in a company. We mentioned, how much you want to get paid, where, what kind of company, industry, blah, blah. Next, we want to see what can you offer this company. It's like, well, I'm just a student. There's some stuff there. We just need to figure out what it is. We need to know how to present it the right way. Not sell it, present it the right way to these people. So that way, when they interview you, you're not even competing anymore. You're outsmarting everyone because everyone's competing. Well, I have a 4-point GPA and blah, 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 blah. That's not what not game we're playing. So we present ourselves the right way.
Yeah,
and
I
hire
mean,
them.
so one of the things I always tell people is that, if they brought you in for the interview, okay, if you're there and you're sitting in a chair or on Zoom or wherever they're doing the interview, if you're in the interview, like, you already got what they want as far as on paper. You've got the skill sets, right? So 4.0, 3.5, whatever. None of that really matters to your point. It's not like, you see what I'm saying? You already have the qualifications. Right. Now it's about, do they like you? Do they trust you? Do they want you to fit in? So now it's so much more about the art of persuasion, the
quote unquote soft skills,
the human element now.
Yep.
Like I need to really like you, and you got to make me want you.
They don't hire people who are technical because if that were the case, they would hire based off the resume. They would just look at the resume and it's like, well, this person has more user experience on this than this other person. Hire that person.
Boom.
That's not how it happens.
Right.
They hire people they like. So our
Correct.
job is to make sure they like us more than everyone else. How do we do that? By having a conversation. How do you have a conversation? Yes, by answering questions, but also by asking questions, the right questions.
Now let's talk about real quick confidence, because man, I see a lot of job seekers that go in there and it's terrifying. And hey, I will tell you, I had an experience where I was running for something. It wasn't a job interview, but I was running for something and they had a panel interview. And I'm normally really confident.
Mm-hmm.
It threw me off guard. It really threw me off guard, and it was like, I think I had the attachment to what the outcome, like we were just talking about. I was too attached to the outcome. I really wanted this thing, and I remember when I had to stop myself because I went in the interview, started going really fast. I was thinking about what I wanted to say before I was even saying it, and they asked me some questions. And I started going out, and then I had to stop. I had to go, hold on, time out. I literally did that. I said, hold on, time out. I took a breath. All right, let me get present again. I need to get present because I was not present. I was thinking too far ahead, trying to think about. I wasn't really listening. I was not conversational. I was just trying to. And I had to stop and pause. And I remember leaving that interview feeling like I totally bombed that thing. I was like, I cannot believe how horrible I was. I was like, I felt so bad. Down here, I felt like worthless. But then I got the call that I was actually being accepted. But I just remember the whole process of feeling like so nervous. My confidence was low. I was stumbling all over my words. Like, how do you help somebody with that? Because it even happened to me. Like, I'm telling you.
I'll tell you, for me, panel interviews are the best kind of interviews.
Really? Okay.
Because now you have more people to play with.
Yeah.
Instead of having one person, you have to make sure that you have a conversation with.
They were like shotgunning the questions, though. Like, you know what I'm talking about?
Exactly. I've been there.
It was like there was no.
Just peppering you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was like, ugh, it was gross.
part of that too. So in order to manage any interview, whether it's a panel or one-on-one,
Yeah.
is to make sure you have a conversation. Again, so yeah, you have to answer the question, but you have to remember an interview is not a test. They never say, okay, what's your biggest weakness? Oh, I'm a perfectionist. Wrong. The answer was, no, that's not an interview, right? That's a test. An interview is not a test. So what you need to do when something like that happens, you take control. Ask a question back. Like, oh, I'll get to your question right now, but first, can you tell me more about, or ask them the same question back. Oh, I know you asked me about this. How about you, from your perspective, why am I here? Or, why are you looking for this position? Why is it empty? Whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Or what
how
would you
slow
expect
down.
from this position?
Exactly.
Flip it.
There's all kinds of questions. And if they ask you a question, it should only be fair game that you can ask them that question back. Again, it's you going into an interview and figuring out, do I want to work here? Because, and I've been there before, where I go to an interview, they ask me a question, very typical, tell us about yourself or whatever. I answer the question and ask, how about you? Can you tell me more about yourself? I saw on your LinkedIn that you've been doing this, blah, blah, blah. And I've had a response, I'm the one asking the questions right now. And that's a data point for me. Like, wait a minute. If they're on their best behavior right now, or they're supposed to be, how are they going to treat me when I'm already inside the organization?
Exactly.
And again, so this is, you're taking, I tell people too, you're on a date when you go to an interview. An interview is a date, and a date is an interview.
Absolutely. And if I was on a date and she said that to me, okay, I'm asking the questions right now. I would say, well, I appreciate
Bye-bye.
you. That was good.
I'll take
Good.
my,
And you can grab the check too, by the way. I'm out.
I'm
Peace.
taking my triple dipper on the go, please.
like I'm not. Yeah, you can kick rocks.
So, we're talking about likability, persuasion, confidence, but it all has to culminate right to the interview, and we got to get people to the interview. What is your view on like the process on applicant tracking systems? Right, just going through those motions.
When I was applying for those internships, this is again fall of 2001, right after September 11th, which is why one of the reasons it was very hard to get a job, because economy was in shambles. We didn't know what was going to happen next, all this stuff. One thing that I really thought about was that, why are we?
No. No. Keep going. Okay. No. This is live, man. We're on LinkedIn right now. We're live. There's no cuts. He's like, oh man. He's like, can we cut? No, we don't do that.
Distracted. What's the question again?
So like,
I love it.
I was like,
like you've got these components, right? You got to have confidence, you got to be likable, and but you got to get to there, right? You got to get to the big show.
Yeah. How do you get?
And
to the interview?
you got these applicant tracking systems, you got your resume, you got so what are your thoughts on the technical processes to get there?
Okay, so when I was a student at college and I was applying for jobs, this is 2001, online applications were already becoming a thing, and people said like, oh, one day you'll just be able to upload your resume and it'll be easy and you don't have to like type in your information. 25 years later, we're still doing the same damn thing, right?
Yep.
It's a flawed process. They haven't improved it. They say we use AI. We're not using AI. We use the same scanning software we were using 5-10 years ago. Okay. So I always tell my clients, like, yeah, we might have to apply online, but that's not how we're going to get our job. How are we going to get our job? We're going to connect with the right people. Again, this is all full circle.
Yep.
And this connecting with the right people does not mean a recruiter. It definitely does not mean an external recruiter. It does not mean an internal recruiter. It means the people inside the company, the people who have your job, the one you want. So I always tell my clients, like, we're looking for 3 people. We're looking for a peer. A peer is you maybe 3 or 5 months ahead. So maybe someone else who's having an internship right there, who has that job, works for that company. Future you. Future you is someone like you, except 3 to 5 years ahead of you. So they've been in that company a little bit longer. they know more about the actual job as opposed to the internship experience. And they can answer specific questions about that. And future boss. Future boss is the hiring manager. And there's very easy ways to find this just by going to LinkedIn, doing your research, getting prepared. That's the key here.
Now, I love how you framed that, right? As far as the types of folks that you should be having conversations with. Because I'm always telling people you need to have frequent conversations with, decision makers. I usually say decision makers inside the company, but the way you framed it is just as important, because it's not just the decision makers. It's
people leading to that. Yeah.
Yeah, the person who's doing your job right now, right? The person who is you 5 years from now, right? Because you want to get to that point too, right? You don't want to just be that. You want to be, 5 years from now, what do you want to be? So I love that. That's a great point. And the quickest way to get from point A to point B when you're lost is to pull over and ask someone who's been there for directions.
Yep.
How did you get here? How did you get in the company? Who's the right people I should talk to? What is it like to work here? Like asking good questions and having informational interviews. Is that what you're...
Having informational interviews, having just regular conversations. Even the interview itself, again, this is all about gathering data. So I always tell people, think about this. You're not having an interview. Let your competition have interviews. You're having a conversation.
Love that.
And what we're going to do in the conversation is you can talk to someone who's an expert at the thing you want to do. How do we know that? Because they have the job. And we're going to ask them those questions we really want an answer to about that job at that specific company. Because once you leave, you can say, you know what, this guy told me or this lady told me about this job, this company, or maybe this is the things I should be looking for. I always tell my clients, a no doesn't mean never. It just means not right now. Maybe you weren't prepared for it as far as technically, or maybe you still need some classes, or maybe it's just not the right time for the company for you to come in. And that's fine. That doesn't mean you can't never apply to that ever again. No, I'm just not ready right now. But at least now I know exactly what I need to do to get ready for the next time this comes around.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I always think about so if you're just looking for a job, if you're just trying to get to work, you probably aren't even going to have that many questions because your mindset isn't in the right place. You're not vetting. You see what I'm saying? You're
looking at it. JOB.
You're from a position of need and a position of lack and a scarcity mindset, which a lot of job seekers are in that position.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're in this position of need, lack, and they go in there and they're just, again, the company's in the position of power. They're in the position of weakness, need and lack. And so what you're talking about is kind of removing that and getting eye to eye. We need to get eye to eye with these companies and just being able to have a conversation, right? And you do need to have questions. If you're not being specific about what you want in life, life will just hand you up whatever it hands you up. And you will just be,
whatever's left over, actually.
Whatever's left over. Ooh, I like that. Whatever's left over. It's kind of again, go back to dating, right? I went through and I made a list of 50 things. Some were deal breakers. Some were nice to haves. Right. I went through very, very specifically. I know what I want. And I've come close a few times. It hasn't been, I haven't sealed the deal, but I've come close a few times. But, and how do you figure out what you want? Sometimes you figure out what you don't want. You need to have a list of these are things I definitely don't want, right? Imagine the things that you hated about your last company. Think about those. What are the things from your last company that you're man, this company sucks?
Well,
man.
it's I'm asking the questions, thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that the type of attitude.
Want.
Yeah, know what you don't want. That's just as important as what you do want.
Yep, exactly right. And I always tell my clients, when we do our first working call, we go through a list of things of where do they want to work, if they have a specific company in mind, specific part of the country or the world, specific kind of industry, specific kind of title, what kind of persons they want. A lot of times, again, my clients are college students, so they don't have a lot of experience. They don't know what they don't know. I said, okay, that's fine, but some of the things that you probably do know, for example, commute. You want to be in office, hybrid, or remote? And it's, I want to do this. Or then some people say, you know what? I don't want to work for a defense contractor. For whatever my reason is, I'm okay, that's fine. What companies would you want to work for? I haven't thought about it. Let's go connect with people who have your kind of education and see what jobs they have. And they'll find opportunities they never knew were existed because in their experience, they just, well, I need to be an engineer at Lockheed Martin and that's it. But maybe some other, I don't know, Greenpeace maybe needs engineers. I don't know. Right. We only find that when we talk to people who have those jobs.
It's a journey, right? It's a journey, and through conversations and through speaking with different people, one dot should, this is the way it should work. One dot should connect you to another dot, should connect you to another dot, and another one, and another one. And this conversation leads you to this conversation and that conversation. And then all of a sudden, boom, you're right. Through those conversations, there's going to be things that you've never even thought about, opportunities that you never even considered, places, things. This is where the what do they call it? The underground job market, like the hidden job market, right? That's where it lives and breathes, is through the conversations. You're not going to get to the hidden job market applying online.
Online, yeah. That job's not online by definition.
By definition,
It can't
right?
be public.
It happens through the conversations, and it's a journey. And if you're just applying online, you're missing out on a whole.
I love the conversation aspect of that, the just the word and replacing interview with conversation, because and you know, job seekers, I mean, I think you should perhaps consider replacing that word, right? Don't tell people you're having an interview. Tell people that you're having a conversation.
Yeah, I'm having a conversation with Toyota.
I'm having a conversation.
Today.
Yeah, right. Like it you know, mentally.
Yeah, that's good.
It changes your viewpoint. I mean, you know, don't, I guess, maybe go too casual into that conversation, just having a conversation, but be prepared,
right,
to your point. But mentally,
be prepared to grill them. That's what you need to do. You need to go in there and be like, listen, Toyota.
Walk in like a boss.
Yeah, Toyota.
Like, I don't need this job.
Toyota, I need to know about X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
No, but yes. Yeah,
no, but yes.
Yeah.
Well, and they want that type of energy anyways, because if you think about it, a lot of companies hire people who are already working, right? They want someone.
Yeah, that's what they look for.
They're recruiting someone from another company, right? They would rather go for that person, and that person is going to be more selective, because if I'm going to leave here to go there, yeah, you better be bringing something to me, right? I'm already here. I'm good here. You came to my front door. You're recruiting me out of this company. You better bring me something. What do you got, right? So that person has a different mindset, because they're not coming from scarcity mindset. They're coming from, what you got for me, bruh? If I'm going to leave, what you got for me, right?
Yeah.
That's the way they position it. And so if you're going in there like coming from a place of lack and scarcity and I need a job, you're not going to be asking the right questions. You're not going to have the right attitude. You're not going to have the right swagger.
You're not going to pay attention, because whatever they say, again, if you need a job and jobs are scarce in your head, no matter what they say, you're going to say, okay, yeah, I'll take
Yeah,
job.
sure.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's not what
that's your
Be
clients.
Daniel Kadar. Shout out Daniel Kadar.
Well, that's
Inside joke.
That's your clients, right? I mean, because see, like Ramon's clients, I mean, if a lot of them are college students, right, neurodivergent or otherwise, I mean, they don't have the luxury, right, of going. So I guess another question to that would be, what are your thoughts on that? Do you feel like employees that are working are more attractive? And why is that stigma there?
I don't know what the stigma is. I don't think they're more attractive. Okay. I don't think they should sound or feel or look more attractive, right? Because, sometimes people just take time off from work, or a college student,
or layoffs, or a
right,
company.
whatever,
The stock market went down, and this company says we got to report something, some numbers to the board, and so we got to have some layoffs.
Right.
A lot of times, it's just a financial decision. It doesn't mean that employee did anything wrong.
Yeah, totally.
They just got caught up in a big mass layoff by
They were a number, right? So
correct.
Going back to the students, a lot of times students, you're mentioning like I can't leave this place unless you give me something. Students maybe don't have that luxury or that mentality, because they're like, well, I have to leave school. They're gonna kick me out of school eventually.
Gotta go.
And I always tell them, like, you do bring something to the table, even if you don't have experience or even industry experience, even if you never had a job. There's something you bring to the table. We just need to figure out what it is and how do you bring it and how do we present this to them. Again, that's one part of it. Preparing. When you show up to an interview and you have good questions, what does that tell the person talking to you? This person prepared. Being prepared for an interview, what does that tell someone? this person cares about this.
Mm-hmm.
If you just show up and you're like, what do you guys do here? What was the name again? How do you pronounce it? How do you
How many
say
breaks
Santillan?
do I get?
How do you say Santillan? That means you're prepared, and people appreciate that. They're like, okay, this guy's already doing the work before he even has the job. So that means he's probably better than the
That's
other
so
guys.
good. I'm thinking about my experience in that panel interview, and it all happened so quickly. And I had travel, and I had all these things going on. I had to go, I had to fly to this place, and it all happened within a matter of 2 days. And there just was a lot going on, and I didn't do a lot of preparation, right? All the preparation was in my head, thinking about what they were going to ask me, and didn't really do any research on them. So that lack of preparation does create nerves, because like I didn't have any talking points. I didn't have any, like, hey, I got this interview right here on this paper. I did preparation here. I don't even need it, because we're going to have a conversation and we're just going to chat. But I have it just in case, and it makes me feel good knowing that I have prepared. And just in case this conversation goes sideways, I can go, hey, you know what? Let me ask you, Ramon. Right? I've prepared, so it reduces a lot of those nerves.
Yeah.
Right?
Confidence.
I tell my clients, when we go into an interview, take your notepad, and one side of the notepad, you're going to put the questions you want to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And so that way you don't have to spend mental bandwidth on memorizing questions, because everyone gets nervous, right? And you can forget. If you write them down, you don't have to remember them. On the other side of the paper, you put the talking points you want to bring up. And I always tell them, like, an interview is not linear, it's a conversation. So if you forget to mention that you know the JavaScript or whatever language you know, and your introduction doesn't mean it's done. You can later on you can say, you know what? Oh, by the way, one thing I forgot to mention is I know how to use Java. And I've done it in this project. I can tell you more about it if you want to. And people are like, oh, yeah, sure, tell us, or whatever, right? It's a conversation. No one goes crazy if you go off script, because there is no script. It's not a play. A play, to be or not to be, that is the question. If you don't say that line the right way, the play's ruined. An interview is not a play. It's not. It's a conversation.
I got a question for you. Speaking of, I got it right here, okay? It's on the paper.
All right.
See, I prepared it. Okay, I got one for you. All right, so you have said that companies don't care about job seekers. So that's a pretty bold claim.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
I tell my clients, and I say, please pay attention to what I'm going to say. No one cares about you.
Ooh.
I'm not saying you're not valuable. I'm not saying you're not worthy. I'm not saying you're not important. I'm saying no one cares about you because everyone cares about themselves.
That's so true.
When you go to a job interview, when people ask you, tell me about yourself, what are you looking for in a job? People say, I'm looking for a place where I can grow and develop myself and, really like, well,
And
companies like, no one cares.
I don't care about
I
that.
don't care about that. I care about my problem. My problem is, and what is the problem? The job description. Look at the job
Right.
description.
Yep.
And I tell them like this. Think about when you or your mom called me to learn about me because you need an interview coach. Maybe you didn't ask me implicitly, but at some point, you probably asked yourself or in your head, why should I hire this guy to be my coach?
Mm-hmm.
If I said, the reason you should hire me to be your coach is because my daughter likes horses and horse riding lessons are expensive and I need money for horse riding lessons for my daughter, you're going to say, I don't care about your stupid horse riding lessons. My problem is I need an internship to graduate,
So true.
right? So that's why I say tell people, they don't care about you. They
Right.
care about themselves. And I'm not saying companies are evil. I'm not saying capitalism is bad or anything like that. It's not what I'm saying at all. We care about our own problems.
At the end of the day,
Yeah.
right? It's about that.
So when someone implicitly or not asks me, why should I hire you as a coach? I don't talk about my problems. I talk about how I solve their problems somewhere else. Because I've helped other students just like you in this major, in this school, in this career field, get awesome jobs. And you can look at my testimonials, you can look at my website, you can talk to the person that referred you to me as proof of the things I've done that you need help with. So I can solve your problem just like I solved it for someone else. And that's the approach you should take when you're going to an interview. No one cares about you. Focus on their problem. Once you take care of their problem, they'll take care of your problem.
That's good. And I would agree. Nobody
Yep.
I mean, and that's makes sense in so many areas of life too, not just in the interview.
and everything.
But people don't care about you.
It's like when you ask somebody, "Hey, how you doing?" I mean, they're just asking. They're
being
just being polite.
Yeah,
They
we're
don't care.
not we're not all like, okay, I use this in the context of like people are worried about posting online because they're worried about the views of other people, right? So if I'm gonna post something, oh my God, what are they gonna think about me?
First of all, no one saw the post because the algorithm didn't put it.
Yeah. Number one, no one saw it. Number two, if they did see it, they didn't care.
And number three, if actually they care that much, the problem is probably with them, right? Like, why is someone so worried about your opinion
Right.
on whatever topic, right?
You
That's my take.
you ever answered like when somebody asks like, "Hey, how you doing?" You ever answer like,
Honestly,
yeah, like, "Oh, not so good," and see what they do, right? I've done that before, and people are like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, that's great.
oh yeah,
Oh, that's excellent. All right, have a great day, buddy.
It's like what?
Have a great day, pal.
have fun at the funeral.
Yeah. That's
Today's
insane.
awful. Today's a bad day. No, just kidding.
I gotta say, man, you your current client base, right? College grads, younger or neurodivergent, and just, I mean, that's a tough field. That is a tough field. I mean, so I guess where I'm going with that is, you got the chicken before the egg, right? Experience, right? You got to have a job to get the experience. You got to have experience to get the job, and then the stigma too, like on the neurodivergent side, like if you got ADD or you've got some kind of like maybe emotional or social intelligence, hurdles.
I'm thinking of somebody right now.
Yeah, I know what you're
You
talking
know
about.
who I'm
Yeah,
talking
I know
about.
who you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
So
I know what you're
how
talking
do you help? How do you help your clients, that segment of your clients, overcome again the chicken before the egg issue, and then the stigma, right, that companies have about hiring, neurodivergent type people?
I'll answer it in a couple of ways. It's a complicated question. First of all, when I work with students, I'm not a doctor. I don't, tell people, oh, you're neurodivergent, you're not this and that. I'm not. When I work with people, I always talk about, maybe do you plan on disclosing? Because especially in the application, it says you have some disability, and currently that's considered a disability right now.
Are they putting like ADHD as a disability?
It is actually, yeah.
I mean, come on, man.
So,
come
yeah.
on, man. Everybody got it there. We all, hey, because they're handing that stuff out like Skittles, bro. At school, they're like, hey, you want Skittles? You the ADHD. You the ADHD. We're all ADHD. Everybody ADHD. Come on, man. That's ridiculous.
So I tell them, like, you can put legally they're not supposed to discriminate against that.
Right.
But we live in the real world. I say you can put it there you want to or not. And I say when you meet with someone, this is up to you to disclose when you want to who you want to. It could be during an interview you want to. It could be in the second or third round interview. It could be once you start working. It could be when you feel like you need some kind of accommodation. But we always practice about like how would you say it. So it's not like I have autism or I have ADHD or whatever it is, right? It's about explaining how it affects your life, if any, and then explain how it actually doesn't really affect your life either. It's a positive side to it, right? It's a superpower. So a lot of times people...
That's it right there, superpower.
Who have, for example, Asperger's, high functioning autism, they can concentrate for long periods of time. They can, again, I'm making generalizations, but a lot of my clients have been like this. They can find patterns very easily. And I always say, okay, so this is the positive. So first off, removing the stigma from other people is you removing the stigma from yourself, because you feel, well, I have this, so that means I'm this. Okay, it's going to be very hard for you to convince someone not to think that way of you when you think about yourself. So I always think like, no, this is a superpower. Here's a kind of silly example, but I kind of went through it myself. I have an accent. I know I have an accent. And I always thought, well, if maybe I had less of an accent, I could be perceived better. Until I realized, like, no, my accent is a superpower. Why do I have an accent? Because I speak 2 languages. And so that's a superpower, knowing 2 languages instead of just 1, right? So then I was like, oh, no, I should embrace my accent. Should I try to sound more professional? Should I try to sound more eloquent, more clearly? Yes, that's the thing. But I don't need to get rid of my accent to be better or be normal. Like, I don't need that. Same thing with this. If you remove the stigma from yourself, or whatever it is that you have, then it's easier to explain to someone else. It's not an issue anymore, right? And it's like, look, I can do the job. Maybe you have to explain to me in a certain way, or maybe you have to be in a quiet room. I don't know. Everyone's different. But I can get the job done. And I can get it done better than everyone else because of this. Here's my examples of the times I've done it.
Gotcha.
I love that. I mean, I'm telling you right now, I got the A's and the D's and the H's and the other D's in there, man, and it's a superpower. Don't let nobody tell you, look, don't let nobody tell you it's a disability. I'm going to tell you that right now. Can I get a disability check? Can I get a check?
No.
I got the A's to the D's to the H to D's.
No.
I can't get a check?
No.
Well,
You can
anyway.
have a cookie.
Give me a cookie then. Give me my cookie. I want mines.
What about the chicken before the egg part, right? Like, we've all heard that. Like the college grads, it's a syndrome. I mean, and they're like, oh, well, I got to get a job, but I can't get a job because I don't have the experience. I can't get experience without the job.
Volunteer.
Yeah.
You can
Well, what's your
volunteer.
take on that? Yeah. Volunteer, for
sure. Well, you took
For
my
sure.
thunder away, so thanks. Thank you.
Sorry,
And
bro.
no, actually, so what I always tell people is like, well, a job description is a wish list. When you're little and you're making your wish list for Santa Claus, you put, I want 10 G.I. Joes, and I want the flight deck, and then I want a Nintendo, but I also want 10 games. 80s kid, right? So these are all my references. I don't know.
Yeah,
what the
we
new
had
toys
that
are.
aircraft carrier.
So you ask all these things, but what happens at the end? Santa Claus brings you, 2 G.I. Joes and 1 Nintendo cassette. And it's like, okay, well, I'm happy, right? But I wanted everything. That's fine. Same thing with job descriptions nowadays. I want someone who has 10 years of experience on AI, which has only been around like 4. And I want this guy to work all day long, but have the mental ability of people management skills of someone who's been doing it for 15 years and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it's a wish list, right? Let's look at what they're really looking for. So anyways, I say, let's find companies who know what they're looking for, first of all, because they know, like, yeah, I'm hiring for this kind of entry-level role. Would I love to have Bill Gates come and code for me? Like, maybe, right? But that's not going to happen. And also, that guy already has a job. He's not going to come apply for this job. So we need to make sure, focus on what the real problem that they have, present ourselves a solution to that problem, and show them how we solved that problem before, whether it's in the school project, volunteering, or whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, even I could see going into an interview and saying, like, asking the questions and, you're trying to maybe you get the interview, but you still don't have the experience that they're looking for. Again, like the wish list issue. But you're able to identify the problem through research, maybe in preparation, and you're able to go into that interview and you're saying, okay, here's a problem that I see you guys having, right? This is a problem, and this is how I would solve it. Now, in maybe even hitting the elephant in the room, right, and saying, now I know I'm a recent college grad, but this is how I would solve that problem, right? And coming up with and giving the solution.
I'll give you a quick example. A couple of years ago, I had a client who was a student. She had some experience in, she was a process engineer. So basically she made processes. Her experience was in oil and gas. She wanted to go into more of the sustainable field. And she couldn't get a job because they all wanted food experience. And hers, a complete opposite of food experience. So she came to me and she's like, I need help with this. Like, okay, so what is the problem? I want to go into sustainable. I'm oil and gas experience. So they just see me and like toxic waste, like they don't want to talk to me because I'm the opposite of what they are. So I said, okay, what company are you interested in? She told me a company. Let's do research. So long story short, she came across this one company. She found an article, an interview of the CEO of this company. It was a startup. That's another one. She was looking for a startup. This company, startup, the CEO made a big interview where they talked about this new egg line, a breakfast line that they were doing. And they were going to revamp from 100,000 units to 10 million in the next year, which coincided, made sense because there was a process engineer position open. So what we did is we wrote an email to the hiring manager. We found out who the person was through LinkedIn. Sent an email saying, hey, I see that you guys are having this problem. You want to ramp up to 10 million units a year. You guys only do 100,000 units a year. I have that experience in oil and gas where I used to do this process that I created for this chemical for oil and gas to get it to 10 million gallons or whatever it was. I would love to talk to you more about what kind of help I can provide. Let me know. Reach out to me. No, we did not attach the resume or anything like that. We send it out. I think within 45 minutes we got a response back from the hiring manager, CCing the head of HR, saying, please attach your resume.
We lost our logo.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
So the resume, she got an interview, she got the job offer. So basically, it was like, I know how to do some stuff. Maybe not exactly what you've done or what you need me to do, but I know how to do things. I'm a smart person. I can figure this out.
Yeah, I can get that job done.
Yeah, I can get the job done. The same applies for people who are changing, or not majors, but from different career paths. Like their background in something, but they want to do something else. Okay, how do we do that? Showing them, hey, I'm a smart person. I've solved this problem for this other company. Maybe it's not the exact same problem as you have, but guess what? I can solve problems, and that's what you need, a problem solver.
Yeah.
They get the job.
Well, we're running out of time. The screen even says it.
no.
It's like, hey, y'all still watching?
No.
Or if y'all are watching online, I need to know right now. If you're paying attention to this point in the episode, we appreciate you. We just want to say thank you so much for tuning into the Who You Know show, okay? Are you still watching? Are you? Okay. No, but I do have a couple more questions before we wrap this up, okay? A big part of what you do is help people to negotiate, okay, and get a little bit more of that cash flow. That's what I'm talking about. You help them get a little bit extra?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me what's like the biggest mistake, because I think the lessons are in the mistakes. What is the biggest mistake people do when they're trying to negotiate?
Not.
Oh,
Yeah.
playing in his own.
Yeah,
A
you
lot of times,
gotta be
again,
there to win.
They just take the first
Whatever.
offer.
And I always tell them, like, this isn't just for this negotiation. This isn't just for this paycheck. This affects the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Because,
It's huge.
So let's just pretend, for easy math, you and another person get the same position, but they get $5,000 more. And we know that when you get a promotion or even a raise, it's percentage based. So you might both get the same, let's say 10% increase next year, but his 10% is more than your 10%.
Mm-hmm.
It can even get to the point where when you get a promotion, it's also based on whatever your last salary was.
Yep.
Right.
You can be making the same as someone who reports to you based on that negotiation.
This is a compounding effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
in, so that's just when you're working. But think about all the stuff that extra money. People tell me all the time, well, I don't care about the money. I'm more about like, fine, I understand. I believe it. But think about the money that you're making that you can use for something else, for the thing you really do care about, the environment, your family, whatever.
Anybody that tells you that don't care about the money, okay, if you're gonna tell me you're trying to get this job and you don't care about the money, I'm gonna say BS. Okay, I'm gonna say BS. You don't care about the money? Okay, then why are you working? Are you independently wealthy and you just feel you're bored? Why are you here? I mean, you don't care about the money?
I'll tell you. So
That's a BS
I would
answer.
say I would contradict that. I'll say, like, there are people who don't care about the money, but would you not feel? And I tell my clients, now I'm not. I agree with what you're saying, but also not, because I tell people, would you feel the same way about not caring about the money when you notice that someone's not doing as well as you, work-wise, with a quality product, but making more money than you? Would that make you feel good or bad? And people, well, that make me feel terrible. Like, would you not want to do your job anymore? Like, no, I wouldn't want to do my job. If someone's doing worse a product than I am, but getting paid more, I was like, that's why you should get paid. And also,
Somebody that says they don't care about the money doesn't understand
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
That to me, when I hear somebody say it's not all about the money, it's not all about the money. They don't understand money is a resource and it's
Right.
a tool,
agree.
right? And it's a tool to do a lot of things. And well, people say money's the root of all evil. No, it's the love of money
money,
that's the
yeah.
root of all evil, right? And so, anyways, I would just like to pull apart that person and try to dissect why they feel that way, because honestly, that's like saying I don't want more time, I don't want more resources, I don't want to make more impact, I don't want to help people, I don't want to serve, I don't want to be able to do all these things that money can do, right? And it's like, I don't want more money? What?
Here's another reason
Doesn't
I
make
feel
sense.
people should negotiate. Obviously, you want to get more money, but people treat you differently if you negotiate. They feel they're dealing with a professional, because even with a college student who has no prior work experience, if they negotiate the right way. People see them and say, "Hey, this is a college kid, but he's not acting like a college kid. He's acting like a professional." And that's why a lot of my clients, or
Very
all my
true.
clients, have a lot of success, is because I don't coach them like people coach college students to get a job. I coach them how I used to coach my executives how to get jobs. So when they go in, I feel the interviewer thinks like, well, we interviewed a bunch of college students, but this one guy or this one girl, they didn't act like college students. They were
Yeah.
prepared. They had a conversation. They knew how to present themselves. They ask me questions about, they almost feel like they were grilling me, that's the one we're going to hire because this is a professional. We're not dealing with kids anymore. We're dealing, well, at least one of them was a professional. That's the one we're going to hire.
Yeah.
I love it. Hey, Ramon, tell the audience where people can connect with you so they can get this information that you got and help a bunch of ADHDs like me's get a little bit more cash flow and negotiate these deals and, you know, level up in life. We're going to connect with you.
My website, persuasiveinterview.com. They can go to LinkedIn. You can look my name, Ramon Santillan, or you can do linkedin.com/in/interview coach.
Ooh, he knows his URL. You know what I'm saying? He got that custom URL, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Guys, if you got value from this episode and you want to go deeper, also connect with us with the Career Transition Summit. Okay, I'd love to help you to rebuild, rebrand, reignite your career search. And you can always just connect with me on LinkedIn as well, and we'd love to help you with that. But Ramon, thank you so much for coming on the show and being part of this, man. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Guys, that's the show. It's all about who you know. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Who You Know Show podcast. My name is Trevor Houston, and if you've enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing wherever you listen and leave us a positive review to help us keep the mics on in the studio. Until next week, that's the show. It's all about who you know.